All right, welcome back to another episode of the Barrels and Bylaws podcast. I am your co-host, Matthew Bulowitz, alongside co-host Rocco Koza, founder of Koza Law Group, and we are joined by yet another superstar, Antonino Febbraro, co-founder of the Boss Juice podcast.
Yeah.
Founder of Febbraro Media Company. Sorry about that.
That's all right.
Come on, man, get it right.
And then founder of Atsap LLC. So welcome, Antonino. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's pleasure's all ours.
Yes.
So, Antonino, you already know the process of this podcast because you're typically the man behind the scenes,
yes,
along with your team. So we decided to bring you front and center and put you on the hot seat.
I love that.
Now, I do have a conflict of interest because Antonino is also a client of the law firm. And I would say, how long have we known each other now?
At
2, 3 years?
2 or 3 years for sure.
Yeah. So I know a little bit of the skeletons in the closet.
Yes,
so
sir.
I don't know. I might have to be conflicted out of some of these conversations, but that's okay. We'll work through it. So again, although you know this, for everybody in the audience, really what we're trying to do here is dive into the life of entrepreneurship. We want to tackle two things on this podcast. One is the switch that was flipped when you decided to become a entrepreneur. And then two is let's talk about some of those hiccups or failures and stumbling blocks along the way. So that's what we want to do. You already know it, but let's get started. So talk to us. Are you originally from Western Pennsylvania?
Yes. Yeah. So I'm Pittsburgh born and raised. Well, I guess I grew up in Shaler Township, which is about, like, for people that don't know, 15 minutes north of the city. I went to a Catholic grade school there, and then I went to Central Catholic High School.
You got recruited.
That's what people try to tell me, but, you know.
Recruited for what?
Oh, there you go.
Your brain, your brawn.
I would like to say my brain, but I did play baseball through high school.
Okay.
I thought about playing in college, but wasn't good enough to, like, go D1.
Okay.
Maybe go, like, smaller D2, D3. But at that point, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go and learn something. So I went to Pitt. So I always say I went to high school and grade school a block away, or high school and college a block away.
Oh, wow.
So I've yet to leave the Pittsburgh area. You know, I always thought I would graduate college, and I always wanted to move out west and go to California, go to either Silicon Valley or Hollywood. We can get into that kind of whole ordeal too, but ended up staying here and have yet to leave. So yes, I am Pittsburgh born and raised.
What in college, what did you major in?
So I majored in computer science, and then I should have had a minor in film. But my senior year, I had to take one more class, and it required you to go off of campus to, like, some studio.
Okay.
And I did not. It was like a Friday from, like, 1 to 6 p.m. And all my buddies are like, oh, Friday they get
The
done at
decisions
class.
we make in college.
Oh, but looking back, maybe that would have helped me if I just had that one, like, last class put on my resume. But
Friday afternoon classes were tough, and I had an art class on Friday afternoons that I barely went to.
See?
But it was I had to take it because I needed an art class, another one. So I understand those decisions, man. They're tough.
it's tough. It's not easy.
Yeah. Do you need the minor now? Does it even?
No, I mean, now it doesn't, like, looking back, no, it doesn't matter now. But, like, I think it's more of, like, a pride thing. Cause, like, when I try to, like, I have a good time answering, like, oh, what qualifies you to, build our software, build our app? I might not write the code anymore, but I can speak that lingo.
Okay.
And so now when people are like, oh, what qualifies you to produce our, podcast or this and that? It's like, well, other than experience, really nothing, I guess.
Well, you do a great job, so I would
Yeah.
complain.
Thank you.
Can't
Absolutely.
complain. So let me ask you this. What made you get into computer science?
Yeah. So I always knew at a young age, I either wanted to go into computers or movies. I don't know why. I always had a liking for that type of thing. I like technology. I loved movies. So I knew in high school that I wanted to kind of go the route of something like that. Okay. I come from a very Italian family. So
You don't say.
Yeah.
There's a lot of vowels in your name, man.
Yeah, there are. So, there's always that, like, my parents were always supportive. So I don't want to come across saying that they weren't, but there was always that voice in my head, like, you know, you got to provide for your family. Like, you know, like film is, you know, picking a needle out of a haystack. Go do something that you know that you can get a job at. So it was like, okay, after I, you know, applied to college, like, okay, let me go for computer science. So I definitely had an interest in it. I don't know where that came from, but that's what kind of steered me in that direction. I liked math growing up, and math always came easy. So it was like an easy, like, kind of put two and two together.
Yeah. Very interesting. Now, again, I know a little bit peek behind the curtain here. So when you started going through your college process, when did the entrepreneur bug hit? Talk us through that.
Yeah, that's a great question. So if you really ask me, like, what did I want to do when I grew up? It wasn't the reason why I was attracted to, I guess, Silicon Valley or Hollywood was because those people, in my opinion, they're creatives. They create their own thing. They build their own thing. And so growing up, I really wanted to be an entrepreneur. But again, talking about my family background, it was like, you know, that's risky. You know, we're paying money for college, you know, go do something or get a degree that you can make money off of. And I'll still want to rock with one of your lines, you know, your license as an attorney is your license to make money. You know, it's like, hey, like if I have a safety net now, like I can go and I can get a job at some company writing code. So I always knew I wanted to start something on my own. When I was a senior in high school, I took a computer science course and I learned how to program, and I made a video game, like a mobile app. It's no longer on the app stores. It's been taken down. It's too old, doesn't compile. But I made a video game for the iPhone, and that was like my first kind of go at it. And I realized, like, one, it was fun. You learn a ton, and there was like something about it that was like, oh, this is exciting. Like, it was the first time in my life where I was like, I was doing work, but it didn't feel like a job. And that's when I realized, like, okay, there's something to this. And maybe my calling is just to, you know, not be a film director or work in Silicon Valley, but to start my own thing. And so when I was a freshman in college, I built another game. And when I was a sophomore, I came up with this idea for a company called Pima. And I don't even remember how that whole thing came about, but that's how I actually
met. How we met. I remember how we met at that coffee shop. Your cousin Dom introduced us.
Yes,
I remember that.
How long ago was that?
So that was 2017, 2018, maybe?
It was probably right around then. Yeah, we met at the coffee shop in Carnegie, and we talked about it. I remember you explaining it to me, and if I remember correctly, it was an app to see where people were.
Correct.
Like if they were at parties. It was like a party.
Yes,
right?
It was a way.
It was a cool idea.
Yeah, it was like a way to, like, basically see if you were interested in, like, happy hours or theater or parties or whatever. It would aggregate data and based on your current location, say, hey, there's, you know, 3 happy hours in an hour, or, like, you know, a mile away from you.
Yeah, I remember. Was there something else too that, like, if people, like, you could see your friends where they were too? That's what I thought, because that was one of the. I remember we talked about that. Was one of the concerns I think I raised. Was like, okay, how are you going to get people to, like, check their location? And now there's privacy issues. Right. And I remember we talked through that. Right. That was an interesting conversation.
100%.
Long time ago, man.
And that, to that point, though, that's when I realized too, you know, we can talk about kind of like the hardships is I believe that, you have an idea, you do something, you make money. It's you know, it's all rainbows and and it's like no, it's like hard.
It's a lot harder than most people think. That's entrepreneurship, and I mean, you've been through that, right? You've seen it, and again, you had the idea, right? You had the idea, it made sense, but and that's kind of, you know, where I came in the picture, and kind of where we as a law firm come in the picture. It's helping you see the things you can't see. Yep. And that's part of the journey of entrepreneurship. You know, you deal with a good accountant to see the financial things you're not even anticipating. It's more than just the idea is the start, but then all the other stuff comes along with the execution. And that's what trips a lot of people up.
100%.
Definitely.
100%.
Well, this one's a very fascinating discussion because who we've spoken to thus far has been later in their life, their journey, them maybe going down a different path and then running into issues or making a big career shift. We've seen that. This is, you started in college.
Yeah.
So you created 2 games. What were those games? I'm just curious.
One was called Bouncy Ball Mayhem, and one was called Squeeze. The first one when I was in high school that I built was basically like a rip-off version of Flappy Bird, if you remember that, like the bird that would flap around.
Oh, yes.
And then the other one was like this game where like you would try to squeeze or square or objects like shapes in between like a wall. It was I'm not the most creative when it comes to games, but it like, like in my head, like, oh, I could build this. It makes sense. Like, let me give it a try.
It's proof of concept.
Yeah.
So you said now you're a sophomore in college. Is that when you started this true business plan?
Yep.
And you're diving into it. You're trying to find ways to create revenue. So talk us around that. So the idea, where did you get the idea?
Yeah. So the idea for that was I was sitting in my parents' house, like I think it was like Father's Day, talking to my dad, and fireworks started going off. And I was like, me and my dad were like, what the heck? Like, where is this going on? And we're like, we didn't know where it was. And we ended up Googling it and figuring out that there was like a community festival fair thing going on. They were shooting off fireworks. And I remember saying to my dad, like, it'd be really cool if there was an app that just told you like, yeah, you're interested in fireworks, you're interested in festivals. There's one a mile down the street from you. And that's kind of where this idea, came up. I ended up building it myself. And I think that was like 2016. And then maybe in 2017, that's when I tried to bring on some partners and potential investors and stuff like that. And that's where.
Now, was that always the vision when you started? So from the idea of the fireworks, literal and figurative fireworks going off, was that always the game plan, or was it, let me see if I can build this? How long did it take to build?
Great question. So I built it in, I think, myself in like 3 months, but I'm not an artistic person, so it looked horrible. And that's whenever I met Rocco, we were in the process of trying to make it look nicer and make it actually like something that I had built the foundation of, okay, like it works, it grabs the data, but it doesn't look nice. It doesn't, it doesn't have a way for it to make money. So that's when I met Rocco. I was in the process of trying to turn that into an actual business instead of just some random app that some kid made.
Yeah.
I remember the story about your dad too. I remember that's because I asked you the same thing, how it came about. Now, it was the whole idea from the beginning was very interesting to me. That's when I remember thinking, like, you got something. Like, I didn't know that was it, but I knew there was going to be something because you had the idea at such a young age, which was impressive to me. Because I mean, I know many people at that age that's they're not thinking past Friday.
Sure.
And you were thinking light years ahead, which is impressive.
I appreciate that.
Light years ahead. That's
science fiction term.
I do not think that's common. I know that's not what I was thinking about as a sophomore in college.
No,
but no, it's incredibly impressive. So, do we want to dive into that a little bit?
Sure.
I mean, I know we're going to talk about you becoming that entrepreneur, but I think let's spend some time on this company here.
Sure.
So everything's built out now. What were the next steps that you ran into?
So I will never forget this actually, because that was like my first like, oh shit moment where like, oh, this might not work out. We had gotten like, I'll call it version 2, ready to go. We were on the store and we were aggregating data, most of it from Facebook. And we really weren't pushing it yet. We were just kind of like trying to figure out like a business model. And so we were at market, but I would say that it wasn't really like, obviously it wasn't making any money. And it wasn't like, from my point of view, it wasn't an operational business yet. And so my uncle, who was helping me and kind of advising me, we had tried to figure out a way to make money. That's how Rocco kind of came into the picture, was it helping with that as well. And it was right after the 2016 election for the presidency. And I was talking to people from like Visit Pittsburgh and other like cities, venues, like venue companies to try to get data and whatnot. they were having a hard time giving us the data. They didn't want to do it for whatever reason. But I would say like 98% of our data came from Facebook. And it was right after, so circling back, right after the 2016 election, it came out that both the Trump and Hillary campaign were using this firm in Boston to aggregate data and predict who people would vote on based off of their Facebook likes and posts. So it was called the Cambria Analytics scandal. The FBI came in and basically shut down this part of Facebook because the issue was that Facebook had this Graph API, which at the time, you could access Facebook data as a developer, which is fine. A lot of companies do that. The issue was that this Graph API, the way it was structured, was that essentially if you could connect to 3 nodes on the quote unquote graph, you could access all the nodes. So it's a very efficient data structure. The issue was Facebook was not adhering to privacy policies. And so if essentially, to put it in layman's terms, if you were friends with 3 people on Facebook, you could access all of Facebook. So I was pulling information from Facebook on events of people's like first birthday parties, like kids. Like I remember like the information would come through and be like first birthdays. I'm like, this is crazy. And I'm not even friends with these people. How did I get their information? It's a private event. So there were data securities.
Okay.
Long story short, FBI steps in, shuts down that part of Facebook. Wake up one morning and like all the data's gone because we can't aggregate data. And that's, if you remember, Rocco, I tried to pivot into like, maybe we post events, maybe we post this information, but I was briefly talking to some like angel investors and they had kind of said, well, we're not really interested in that because now you're not aggregating data. You're competing with Eventbrite and Yelp, and that's not something we're interested in. And so, a long story short, I could not solve the problem of how do I aggregate this data. I had looked into some other third-party providers, but they were aware that a lot of companies were using Facebook for this event data. And they were like, the cheapest quote we got was like $15,000 a month for event data. And I don't have the capital for that. I couldn't convince people I was broke in college. I had, couldn't convince people to give me that money. So I kind of punted and just kind of like hung up the flag there. And at this point in time, though, I'm graduating college and I have a job at Federated Investors, which also so weird because David Allen worked there too. And it was like, there's like a weird, I don't know what's going on over there, but had a job.
Entrepreneurs.
They did. Yeah. That's a great way to put it.
I had a job there and I got a call from a friend of a friend saying, hey, we heard your story. They have this app idea that they want to get off the ground. They're a startup. I'm like, do you want to build it for them? And I was like, if they pay, sure. And that's how I kind of pivoted into consulting for startups.
Well, let's take a step back here. You covered a ton.
I did.
So, sophomore, you build this program, this software. Then the FBI comes in and shuts. Essentially, if we're going to boil that all down, the FBI comes in and shuts you down.
I like to think so.
Sounds cooler that way.
It definitely sounds pretty cool. The FBI shut me down. So let's just hit pause there. What was going through your mind when you were reading about all of the scandal, how this data was being used, the privacy issues? You're sitting there as a college student. Were you worried that someone was going to be knocking on your door at all? Were you worried that were you going to get into any trouble? I mean, obviously you were just aggregating data that was available to you. So understandably, but what was going through your mind when you woke up that day and everything was shut down?
That's a great question. I'll answer it in 2 parts. The first part, I think when I was that young, I was naive and I didn't really understand how the world worked. So in my head, I'm like, oh, this is nothing, like whatever, like we'll figure it out. I wasn't really concerned about getting into any trouble because, like, in my head, it was like, whether or not this is, you're my attorney. I don't know if it's valid to say, but I was like, I did nothing wrong. So, like, if anyone asked, I would just tell the truth. So I wasn't concerned about things like that. What the hardest experience for me, though, and what sucked the most was the amount of time and effort that I put into something for it to be like that, just kind of done. It was like, it wasn't like I always say, thinking back, it wasn't like I could see it in the future. Like, oh, like we're running out of cash. You know, we don't have enough revenue coming in the door. It was like, oh, we have momentum. I'm excited. This is going well. And then, you know, like nobody's interested anymore. I can't get, you know, I went from needing like no money to get this, you know, to market to needing like, you know, 15 grand a month just to pay for data. Like it was, for me, the most eye-opening thing that kind of hurt me was how quickly things changed. It was like, and that's when I learned, like, an entrepreneur, you gotta be on your toes.
Yeah. How much time do you think at that point you had put into this project, this company?
It's a great question. It was a good deal of time because I was in school, and then I was working. As for my computer science grade, I had to do a co-op program. So I would go to school, and then I was working also full time at Federated as an intern. So I was taking like night classes and going to work, basically 8 to 4:30 every day. Going to class and then coming home and trying to work on the right code, build this, you know, put together a business plan. So it was like it was long days. So like I put in a lot of time. Could I put in more? Probably. Like looking back, I think there was also a part of me too where like I had fun in college, and I wasn't like I can't lie and say, oh, I was just sitting in a dorm all day like doing nothing but working, because I had fun. So like I put in a lot of time, but I probably could have put in more, if I'm being honest.
Well, you bring up a good point. So you said you were an intern as well while you're trying to get this business off the ground. So what was the thought process once that business got shut down? You're thinking about all the time that you had put into this, all the sunk costs that you put into this. At that point, were you hanging up the entrepreneurial shoes at that point, and then moving on? You had a great job, great company, right, in downtown Pittsburgh, headquarters. So was that it at that point, or was there always something that was sitting there in the back of your mind saying, this isn't the end of my journey of entrepreneurship?
Yeah, that's a great question. There was definitely always something in the back of my mind. I always had a bug for like, I can't sit still. I think I have ADHD, and like, I just like, you know, I knew that like doing a 9 to 5 was going to be miserable for me. So I always viewed Federated as like a stepping stone, like, hey, like get some experience, learn how to build industry grade software, you know, learn some of the ins and outs of what's, you know, standard in the industry, and, you know, pay your bills, and, you know, then kind of build this thing up onto the side. So to answer your question, I definitely viewed it as a stepping stone, but I will say they were like, I will tip my cap to them. They were the most understanding. Like, I was so transparent with my boss. I was like, hey, like, here's the deal. I'm going to take this job. I work with startups on the side. You know, is this cool? And he was like, yeah. And, you know, when I left them to go and, you know, pursue my own thing full time, he was the most supportive person. That company was so supportive. And so like, I always tell my team, like, if I could ever pay something forward, like, you know, I hope one day an employee comes and works for me, and, you know, I am flexible with them, and as long as they're transparent with me, and I hope they start a business and it takes off and they go for their dreams. Cause that was like the one thing that I will say they did right by me. Like I cannot speak ill about them because of that.
What was the biggest thing you learned from that experience working there?
So I learned a couple of things. I think the biggest thing I learned was on the technical side of things, how to like build software in a way that can be shipped effectively. Cause like they're in a very highly regulated industry. Right. So I learned how, like, you know, the SEC is constantly auditing them. You know, you can't just write this code without explaining why you did it. You know, you can't just ship something out to the public without having, you know, your T's and I's crossed. And so like there's policies and procedures behind that. So I've incorporated a lot of that into Atsap, and like, even like, when we ship products for clients, we have like a development, staging, and production environments. I learned that from them. That was like, you know, hey, like you develop here, you test things here, and then you ship it here. And so like that was a big learning thing. The other thing that I learned while at that job was just listening from employees that have been there for 20 plus years. They have a very good retention policy there. Like the average employees there for like 10 years. Wow. So like that's, very good. And one of the things I learned is they were good to their people. They were consistent. So like the common thread that I heard was like, hey, we know we can maybe make some more money other places, but they're consistent. They don't lay off, and like they let them live their lives. And I experienced that too. Like, them letting me kind of, like what other business would be like, hey, like, yeah, we know this kid is building another business. He might leave any day now. Like who else would do that?
Exactly right.
I feel like I owed them something, so it's like, that was a big takeaway too. Like treat your people well.
Yeah. Good.
You said the word consistency. Do you think that is, because I love that word. Do you think that's an important thing for entrepreneurs to understand? Consistency, and how would you say that applies in what you do now?
Yeah, I think consistency is key. Guys, if I could sit down with younger me and tell him something, it was like, you have to be consistent because there is nobody telling you. Like the difference between working a 9-to-5 job was like someone was holding me accountable. Yeah, there is nobody holding me accountable but myself. So like you have to be consistent, have a routine, something. I think that's super crucial.
Absolutely.
Well, it's interesting because we talked about the business when you were in college. Fast forward now, you're with Federated, and I will consider this the rare opportunity where this is going to be the second switch of entrepreneurship, where you have this safety. We talked about family. Family is very important. And they pushed for security, what's going to pay bills, what's going to provide for your family. Well, now you have that with a great company. What was it like when you decided to make the jump and leave that? What was going through your mind at that point in time?
That's a great question because I'll be honest, that was the hardest experience I ever had in my life, not just from business-wise, but personal. I went from having a very secure job to knowing what I was making each month to not necessarily like I knew what I could pay myself, but also like I'm sure you guys understand that there's that unknownness too of like what might be down the road. And all I remember about that point in time is that I knew since I was a little kid, that's all I wanted to do. Start my own business, do something like that, be an entrepreneur, build my own thing. This was my chance. I finally like kind of living up to my dream and shit just hit the fan. I left that job. My dad got sick. I had some personal issues I was dealing with, and everything that I had planned out did not go to plan. And it was like the first time in my life where I was like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. And so that transition was one of the hardest transitions of my entire life. I don't even understand how to explain that. Like there was very quickly a moment in time where I was like, why did I do this? Why did I even give this a try?
Yeah.
Do you believe every entrepreneur goes through that?
I hope. I constantly, ask God, why? Yeah. I was in a low place. Like there was like times where I was like, not happy. Like I don't know, what did I do? And, I remember thinking like, is this worth it? Like, I'm going into debt. I'm doing this like just to, build something that I want to do. And it's like, do I just quit? And, I like believe that like in my heart somewhere that God was like, hey buddy, you've wanted to do this your entire life. Yeah. You thought it was going to be rainbows and butterflies, is this really what you want? Here you go. I think it was like a test. And I think that 100%. Entrepreneurs have to, go through that at some point because like it is not for the like weak-minded. And I don't mean that in a negative way or to like tell people that like, oh, you're just not cut out for it. Yeah. But it's not like it's not easy. In every day, no matter what point you get to, something new comes up.
Yeah, absolutely. I always say if you haven't had that feeling, you haven't taken a big enough risk. Because you have, because everybody that takes that big risk. I mean, I had the same feeling. Like, why did I do this? Like, what am I doing? I walked away from a great corporate job to do what? To try and build a law firm. I had no idea what I was doing, and it's scary. Like it is, when you're asking where the next dollar is coming from. It's a scary moment. And most successful entrepreneurs, I mean, all the successful entrepreneurs I know have all had that moment where you look in the mirror and you say, why did I do it? And it's then you just got to trust in God, and you trust in, you trust in, I always say you trust in God and you trust in your skill set, and then you just keep moving forward. If you just keep moving forward, and that's where consistency comes into play. And I think that's the undervalued piece of the puzzle that most entrepreneurs or wannabe entrepreneurs don't tend to get until it's an absolute necessity. It's not rocket science. It's just consistency. You just keep moving forward through all the stuff and the storms. You'll eventually get there, but most people don't have the consistency and the discipline. And
I agree.
You got to have those moments of where you really got to look in the mirror and say, what did I do?
Yeah.
It shakes you up.
I think that a lot of entrepreneurs quit too early too.
Yeah, absolutely
I think
right.
there's like, you get to that point and it's like, you quit because you're like, I just had enough. And it's like, if you just waited,
yes, that's about right before
longer.
it's about to hit. Yeah, when you get to that point, you're like, I can't take it anymore. And you had that moment. You felt it, and it's low.
It is. That's the other thing too. Is like, if I could say one thing, it's entrepreneurship's lonely. It's like, there's a lot of nights where I would just like, be sitting in my bedroom, like staring at the ceiling, like, there's like nobody can help me. Like,
I still do that.
So what did you lean on in those moments?
So I come from a very good family. So, and I have a great group of friends. So I'm fortunate to have a support system that I always say, like, I know that, not that I would want this to happen, but like if I lost everything, I'd have somewhere to sleep. So like there's that, like I do have a safety net in that. But like, I think that, having a good environment or a support system around you is key, and having like, good advisors too, like having people who can point you in the right direction. Cause like one of the stories I'll share is, I remember one of the things in 2022, I hired like our first W-2 employees, and we're going to run payroll, and like we had we were doing well on paper in terms of receivables, but I had collected nothing. And it's like, the 14th of whatever month, payroll's the next day, and I'm like, oh my God, I have no money to pay anyone. Like what do I do? Like, I'm in a panic. And I called my uncle, and he's like, relax, like call your bank. Yeah. He's like, they'll like, explain the situation, see if they can quickly get you like a line of credit of some sort. And I was like nobody taught me that in school. Like that's the other thing about entrepreneurship is there is no, like, you're learning through failure, because there's no like textbook that you can read that's going to outline all the details. It's about what you learn and the mistakes you make. Yeah. That's the hardest part.
Absolutely right.
I love that, learning through failure, because I don't think schools adequately prepare anyone. They prepare people to be employees and enjoy the security and comforts and the checks and balances of their personal bank account, because now that they can pay those bills and work as a cog in a machine. But I mean, would you agree with that, Rocco? Is there any prep work done through really any school, undergrad or graduate? I'm talking law school as well.
No, I mean, I look back at my educational career. I mean, I had a class in college called Intro to Entrepreneurship. And it didn't teach me anything. I mean, it was there because again, there are certain things you can't teach. It's just instincts you have to develop. Because I mean, when you say trial or, learn through failure, you really have to just walk up against it and you learn what you're made of, because you can't, like, if someone asked me what I did every day or how I built a law firm, I would say, I don't know. Like, I just did it. I just said, I'm going to do this. And you take the next step and you see the next step and you just keep going. You can't teach somebody that. I think there are people that have inherent skills to be an entrepreneur. I think there are some God-given talents people have. I think certain things you can learn. other stuff, some people just aren't cut out for it. That doesn't mean anything. It's just some people don't, because you have to have a very high risk tolerance. You can't teach somebody that. Right. You can't teach somebody what a risk is going to look like, because everybody looks at risk differently. You can't teach somebody, you don't know that you're going to miss payroll if you don't have money. No one's going to say, well, if this happens, here's what you do. Because if someone's not a risk, a person that is very risk adverse, they're not even going to think about missing payroll. So it's not going to cross their mind, where it's like, if I'm the person that takes a lot of risk, I'm like, well, what happens if I don't have the money? I got to figure that out. So you're not well prepared in law school. They didn't teach you anything about the practice of law either. I mean, you just taught how to think like a lawyer, but literally, I just said, I'm going to start a law firm. And I just said, okay, I'll figure it out. No one in my family was a lawyer. No one had, started a law firm. I just figured it out. Same thing with you. You just kind of, we both come from Italian families. It's find a secure job. Yep. And it's it's not on wires.
Yeah.
It's not wired that way. And you just learn. And it's just, but you've got, the biggest thing I see with people is you've got to be willing to learn. Too many people go in entrepreneurship thinking they know everything, and not wanting to actually learn from the people who are ahead of them.
Yep.
And if you're willing to just learn and listen and observe and try and adjust, you can be successful. But you got to be open to that learning and that the information you're getting from people.
100%.
It's not taught in school at all. At all.
No, not at all. It's tough because I think as entrepreneurs too, and I'm guilty of this as well, is you want to present this picture to the outside world and to your people that I know what I'm doing. Right. And it's but like you said, I come into that, I'm I don't know what I'm doing actually. I'm shooting from the hip and just hoping for the best, and wherever the wind takes me, I'm going to try to figure out the right course.
I think as entrepreneurs, we just learn to trust our instincts. And I always say, I don't know what I'm doing every day. I just know the skills I have and how I solve problems. I just look at, okay, everything's just a problem I have to solve. And how do I solve problems? Okay, what's the end result I'm trying to get? And I reverse engineer. That's just how I think about everything. So I may not have any idea how to deal with this situation. I say, okay, well, what is the end result I want? And I just say, okay, I work backwards. How do I get there? And that's just a skill set I've developed over time. But there are many days where I'm sitting in the office. I'm I don't know what to do. I don't even know why I'm here. How did I get here? I don't feel like I should be here right now. But then you just start and you just keep moving, and it's it's part of the journey. But if you're not questioning yourself every single day, even I've been doing this 20 years. If you're not questioning yourself every day, you're not trying hard enough. Right? Truly, that's what I believe.
For sure.
That's a big part of what we're doing this year, is just continuing to push ourselves. Yeah. When I joined, we talk about it. We joke about it now, but in the moment, we hadn't known each other for more than 2 weeks. I had the cushy job. I was on the partner track. I was doing all the right things, playing the internal politics correctly, and something never sat right with me. It was never an idea of staying where I was. I wasn't going to be fulfilled. And I needed an element of betting on myself. And lo and behold, we talk about just fortuitous happenstance, or maybe there's some larger meaning behind all of this. That's when you and I met, Rocco, right when at the peak of my, I would call it frustrations of just not being fulfilled in my position. I knew something was out there. I didn't know what it was. And then that's when we met, and we were saying very similar things. And that's when I said, this is fantastic. This guy already started drawing up the blueprint. And at the end of the day, I just wanted to bet on myself. And it was a similar situation where if all else fails, at least I bet on myself. And then we'll figure out everything else later. But I think you need an element of just people who are maybe a little bit crazy, who are willing to take that jump and that leap of faith, because we talked about this before. That leap of faith for your first employee is not, in my opinion, is not on the business model, on the business plan, all this stuff you can put the glitz and glam on. It's really just a bet on you. Yep. So really you're selling yourself to that first employee. Now, as you build up greater business proof of concept, okay, people are going to be attracted to not only the leadership team, not only the culture, but also the product. That first, or not just the first, but the few first employees that you have, it's on your vision, on what you believe. And yeah, you need a little element of crazy to be able to take that leap. And so I think what both of you have done has been incredibly impressive. I want to get back to just one piece, because I think this is important, because we talked about this on almost every episode thus far. And you brought it up. You said you wanted to be an entrepreneur from an early age. Talk us through that, because it seems like this has not been something that someone just wakes up one day and says, I think I want to be an entrepreneur now.
Right.
It's something that has been digging at them their entire life. So talk to us a little bit about that from an early age.
Yeah. So the earliest thing I remember, I was a little kid and I had friends whose parents owned businesses, pizza shop, law firm, this and that. And, they all had three things: nice house, nice cars, nice things. And I was like, I correlated, you start a business, you make a lot of cash. And I quickly learned it takes a long time after you start a business to make any cash.
Tell me when you get there.
And then, so there's that piece that I kind of always, I am driven by, I'll take that back. I'm driven by money, but like not to the point where like I need to have a ton of it. It's just like, like I like the freedom of entrepreneurship. I think that's the biggest draw. As I got older, I started to learn that my favorite type of movies or books to read were movies or books based on true stories or people's lives. And most of those are about entrepreneurs or, creatives of some sort. And I learned to admire them. And it's like, hey, I want to be like those people. And there is a saying that I think Gary Vaynerchuk says, where he's like, you have one life. Everyone's going to die. So you can either go and do the secure thing, be secure, have a steady paycheck, or you could go and try your own thing, do something that you're passionate about, do something that you love, and see if it works out. And like the only thing you can lose is that, some time and that you tried. And I believe that I would rather be 75 and think back and said, you know what? I tried. It didn't work out. I have no regrets. Then be 75 and think back, what if? And so I also believe that I'm young and time is on my side right now.
Absolutely.
So that's why I just kind of, to answer your question, Matt, I just knew at a young age that I have to start now. And I don't know what exactly kind of pushed me in that direction, but there was always something that I wanted to, I don't even say that I want to own a business, but I wanted to build something of my own, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, and with that ownership comes freedom. I think it's to your point what you said earlier about money. Money gives you the freedom. And I think that's what I think a lot of entrepreneurs, people that I've known, and myself included, you started because you like the material things and money. It's how you keep score. But once you get into it, quickly you learn it's not about that at all. It's truly about living life on your own terms. Right. And because to me, I don't even think about the money now. It's more about legacy and just living life the way I want to, and the freedom. But to also, I do think a lot of entrepreneurs, it starts at a very young age. Because I think you said you don't just wake up one day and say, I want to be an entrepreneur. Yeah. I think I was selling baseball cards as a kid, and I didn't have any entrepreneurs in my family. Or I didn't really know. None of my friends and parents owned businesses. There was just, I think, something I was just born with, that I just wanted to do something different than what I saw my whole life. I wanted to, make an impact of some sort. I wanted to try something different. And it was at a very young age. I think most of my friends that I know that all own businesses all had something like that at a very young age, where they saw the world a certain way, They wanted to do something different. They were all non-traditional in certain ways. There was always something that was different about them. And I think if you take, 100 entrepreneurs, put them in a room, each of them are going to have a very unique characteristic that is different than the general population. I think that's how you can point out an entrepreneur very quickly in a room.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. 100%.
When we talk about, we're saying it a lot now, freedom. What is your relationship when we say freedom to that work-life balance? We talk about this a lot on podcasts, but what is your relationship with work-life balance?
Ooh, I try. I try.
What is work-life balance to you?
So I think I'm in a fortunate position where I enjoy what I do. So like, there's a lot of times where like I'm working and it's 8 o'clock and I'm like, oh, it's 8. Like I didn't realize I've been working for 12 hours. Like I just, things kind of, click. But then there are times where like, I can't tell you the last time that I actually felt like I took a real vacation. Like I spent a month in Europe this summer for like vacation and work. And I really didn't turn it off, like it was, maybe I wasn't sitting in front of a desk all day, but like I was still on the phone, texting, emailing, taking a phone call, et cetera, et cetera. So work-life balance to me, I think is whatever it is that you're comfortable with.
That's a good way of putting it.
Yeah. So it's like, I enjoy what I do. So for me, like if someone calls me at 9 o'clock with a problem and like I'm available, like I'm not going to be like, I can't do this till 8 a.m. tomorrow. Like I'm going to take care of it. So like, I think it's whatever people are comfortable with. And also like what I enjoy the most out of that is like I said, I don't really answer anyone. So if I wanted to go on a week vacation tomorrow, I could.
Yeah.
It's just, you pick your battles.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting. And maybe this is the greatest test for employers out there. When I first joined and we were working together, Rocco, it was a few months in where I knew that this was the perfect situation, because at my previous jobs, that afternoon drug on. I knew if you were to ask me any time in the afternoon, I could tell the exact minute of what the time was. Yeah, it's 3:19 in the afternoon. Just so you know, it's now 3:22. That the clock disappeared when we were trying to build something special here, and that's when I knew we were on to something. So I think, and it's going to be near impossible for employers to actually figure this out if employees are just watching the clock. But immediately, again, we were a few months in when I never looked at the clock, and we got to a point where I didn't realize it was at the end of the day already. And I was excited to get back in to see what were we going to try to do tomorrow and the next day and the next day. To me, that's when I knew we were on it. Take away everything else of, hopefully we can grow to do this and do that. The fact that the clock disappeared for me was an enormous moment. So when we start talking, would you agree with that? Obviously, you're in a different situation than I was, but would you agree with that?
Yeah. I love what I do. Like I love that you said it's whatever you're comfortable with, because it's hard for me to articulate work-life balance. Right. It's like, I'm comfortable working all the time, so I don't really feel like it's work. I just own a business that I happen to love being a part of and love the people I get to work with. So I don't know whether it's Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Wednesday. I know just because of the calendar and what's on my calendar. Sure. I do, I don't look at the clock. I just, I get up early, I stay up late, and it's just it's part of who I am. Like, it's not like I don't feel like some people say they have a job, or they say, I'm a lawyer. I just practice law. It's part of who I am, and I own a business. So I feel very fortunate to get this. If I was in corporate America, I was the same way. Like, I knew what time was. I was ready to get the hell out of there as quick as possible, because it just, I didn't have a passion for it. Here, I see that we're building something different and trying to really change an industry. Right. It's going to take time, but just the fact that we're in the midst of it and getting challenged every day and learning and getting the bumps and bruises is what I love. So I completely agree. It's truly, and it's hard. You can't. as an employer, I can't articulate that to people. I just hope that my people feel it.
Right.
And, you try and create an environment where they do feel it and they do see the passion that I have and you have for the business, and they just follow suit. And there's up days and down days, but, if more than not, these days we're riding high and we're all feeling good and we see the vision, then I think it just ends up working itself out. And people find their own balance and what they're comfortable with. But what I really notice now is, as we've grown and they see the passion that we have, they become more passionate for their business, and they get more comfortable with what they're doing. So I think it's really it's a good place to be, and it's, I wish everybody could feel it. I know it's not the case. I feel very fortunate and thankful for being where I am. And it's, I wouldn't trade it for anything. Truly, I wouldn't.
I agree. Sometimes I wonder, though, if I like the journey more than I like the end goal. Like there's always like this question in the back of my mind, like, what happens if when I achieve what I want to achieve, am I going to be just as thrilled to like show up every day? I don't know. I don't know if I like the.
You'll change what you want to achieve. I said I wanted to build a 3-person law firm, then a 6-person law firm, and now it's a 100-person law firm. So the goal always changes. It's right. And I think that's what we have to do as entrepreneurs, right? Because I'll never be comfortable. I had lunch with one of my good friends, and he was talking. He's a lawyer as well, and he was talking about, if we hit this case, I could basically retire. I'm like, I would never retire. I just love what I do. There's no end game for me. To me, the end game is what lives on past me. Like, once I'm in the grave, if this thing lives on past me and, impacts people's lives or impacts, the employees or the industry, like, that to me is what I'm trying to achieve. I'll probably never see it in my lifetime, and that's okay, because it's the journey. The journey is the fun part.
Right. Absolutely.
I mean, it's like the practice before a game. Like, the game, it's like, you had the game, but it's the practice and getting better along the way is what I've always enjoyed.
I agree.
It's just, you got to change the destination, man.
I like that. That's good.
So fast forward now, obviously, we talked about a lot of great conversation on the challenges, those initial bumps in the road. But now that you have been in it 7+ years with Atsap, what are you running into now as some of your biggest challenges?
Yeah, that's a great question. We've been, I guess I'll take it in 2 pieces. One, I'll talk about what I've struggled with and mistakes that I've made, 'cause I think that's crucial to listeners out there. So, like, we have been struggling as a company to kind of get past this, like, 12-person sort of team. Like, so what I mean by that is, we have, I think right now, 4 or 5, I guess if you include me, W-2, and then most people are like, per project contractors, but we work with them pretty consistently. So we'll say we're like a team of 12. In my experience, the last 2 years, anytime we jump above that, shit starts to hit the fan. And that's when I started kind of working with EOS and Mike Scher, because I was like, I cannot get past this hump. So like, that is a, issue that we've been battling with. Speaking of me personally, I think that I am not good at, and Jaden, you can probably attest to this. I'm not good at like picking people. So like, someone walks in and they apply for a job, I vibe with them, like, you're cool, you're in, and it's like, that is,
I like your shoes, you're good.
Yeah. You're Italian, you're in. Your grandmother makes lasagna, that's cool, you're in. But I have been burned by bad hires. Even bad contractors too. You hire a contractor and I've been burned by that. So that's one of the biggest issues we're facing. If I want to talk about, though, 2024, 2024, I want to put it in an envelope and I want to throw it out the window. And I never want to think about 2024 again.
Agreed.
That was probably the hardest year we had, just because we had problems that we shouldn't have had. And I think that comes down on me too. I was still learning how to structure and organize a business. and I made a lot of bad decisions. I also, if I'm being honest, like 2022 and 2023 were like great. Like I was like, oh, like, like we're making money. I'm hiring employees. And I wasn't keeping an eye on the details. I think that's an issue with entrepreneurs who are like visionaries, where it's like you see this like, oh, everything's coming together, a plan's coming together, and you're just, my head is like 20 years in front of like, oh, when we get to this point, we need to be prepared for that. And it's like, but you're not focused on the current point in time. I let small things get out of hand. We weren't collecting money. We weren't having checks and balances. I was making bad hires. People were pissing off our customers, and we ended up, I ended up hiring people, having this overhead, having to sort of kind of, I'll use the term downsize, but some people left, some people were just, got let go. And it snowballed into 2024 where we lost some of our bigger clients because of like mistakes that we made. And it, I was starting to have last year that same feeling I had back in like, mid 2022. And I was like, what am I doing? And so right now we're going through, everyone keeps telling me, oh, it's growing pains, okay. I guess that's good to, hear. But I just also like, sometimes I'm like, what is going on? So yeah, to answer your question, Matt, we are right now, I think our biggest challenge is like the growth aspect. Like we, as a team, I think we all have a vision of where we want to go, but getting there is a lot harder said than, or a lot easier said than done, because there's a lot of hiccups along the road and whatnot. So did I answer your question there?
Yeah, it did. I mean, we're going through similar things here too, where it's where I had to reframe my mind was success is not in the head count, it's in the efficiency and the productivity. And even now, I mean, 2024 gave us tremendous amounts of learning experiences. Isn't that politically correct?
A lot.
But it was a test type of year, and for better, for worse. I mean, Rocco alluded to it when we first met. We kind of talked about that. We're going to become that 3 to 6 person law firm, and that has grown. And I think we both kind of fell into the trap of success is based on the head count. And as we got into 7, 8, 9, and that momentum was intoxicating, and we were hiring well in advance, and we were just anticipatory hires, and we knew the structure and the formula was there. And that's same thing for what you're doing. That formula has never changed. It's still a great product. It's still great services. It's just, you have to, I think at times, let organically and sometimes hopefully you can infuse that to make that skyrocket as quickly as possible, but let that efficiency and productivity catch up with that vision just to a certain extent. And then obviously as visionaries, you say, okay, we're going to stretch it even further now. But I would say, I mean, would you agree with that, Rocco?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was intoxicating. And I think like you said about, I put a lot of it on me last year. Like I had my head down. I was just like, let's focus on growth. Let's grow. And I wasn't paying attention to the details. And I was thinking 5 to 10 years down the road instead of thinking 5 to 10 months down the road. Then you start missing things, and things that, when I look back were so obvious. I was like, how the hell did I not see that? Right. But I think you have to go through a year like that to get to that next level. Because if you don't have a year like that, where you basically just get kicked in the balls, and that's really what the year was. It's just like, you just kick me in the balls. It is what it is. But that reshapes the way you look at things. And now, like, my vision is so different and so much more focused now, and I'm seeing things so much more clearly. But I'm moving at a more intentional pace, like slow to hire, quick to fire. Like very intentional thought behind everything I do. And as we're growing the firm, I'm thinking and making sure the right things are happening, looking at costs, looking at everything. So I think, once you start doing that, that's when you kind of like, I look at this year's almost, I don't want to say reset year, but it's more of a, we learned a lot last year. We know we have to fix this year. Like if we stay stagnant or grow a little bit, not like we did in the past, I'm okay with that as long as we solidify the foundation, because this is what we're going to build everything else on top of. But it's hard as a visionary, because it's hard for me to stop and like look right in front of me when I want to look like way out there, you know, across the highway and say, that's where we're going. Right. But I've got to get from here to there. And if I'm not looking at how to do that, I'm going to trip and fall on my face trying to get there. And I think that's a challenge and to your point, like to getting to the 12 employees, like everything I've ever read or heard is once you get past 10, it's almost impossible for one person to manage. Like you have to have a strong person to get to that next level, like to manage those other people. And most visionaries don't understand that. And that's, you know, that's a challenge as well. But yeah, I mean, it's, you know, we had a lot of bumps and bruises last year, definitely. But I always say, like I was talking to someone, I said, if I could withstand last year, like I feel like I could withstand anything now. Because last year truly was the storm. Like if I look at 2024, it was the storm of my professional career. But we're still standing, and we still grew last year despite all the turmoil. So I'm pretty sure we can make it through anything now. But we had to go through it. We truly did.
That's awesome. I love that. That's like, you know, what's that quote from Finding Nemo? I love that. It's like, just keep swimming. That's all it is. That is entrepreneurship.
Literally, that's what we did. We just kept swimming last year. Absolutely, man.
Yeah, it was a storm, but we made it, and obviously you made it as well.
Yeah.
So as we kind of move forward and wrap up things here, what is that one thing? You knew this question was going to come.
I love this question, by the way.
What is the one thing that you would tell entrepreneurs or potential entrepreneurs who are on the fence? Because again, there are so many people who may have that bug and that thought way in the back of their minds, but they're just not ready to take that leap. What is that one piece of advice that you would give them?
Yeah. So I'll say this. So my company's called Atsap. For those that don't know, it's pasta spelled backwards. And so there's a lot in the culture we're trying to build. There's a lot of, you know, talk about Italian culture, you know, family, kitchen table type deal. But there is an old Italian proverb or saying, and I might butcher the Italian, but I believe it's pronounced "Ci dormi no pegli pesci." I mean, it basically, I probably butchered that, but the rough translation into English means "he who sleeps doesn't get the fish." And what that proverb in Italian is supposed to mean is, you know, there's a strong sense in Italian culture of you are a provider, especially for men. You go out, you provide for your family, you go and do a job, you don't complain about it, you come and you provide food, money, and housing for your family. And I think, though, that embodies and pictures entrepreneurship. Yeah. It doesn't matter how or when you get started. If you want to do it, stop thinking about it, get up, go to work, go try it, and shoot your shot. Because if you don't try, you'll never get that fish.
Yeah.
I love that. And you're speaking to the fellow Italian here on the podcast.
I have a final question. I have to ask one question. Considering you're a film buff, what is your top 3 films?
Oh, okay.
I'm so curious.
So I have to list up there. I'll go top. You said top 3.
Top 3.
Number 1, I'm a big Christopher Nolan fan. Okay. So I love The Dark Knight.
Okay. Interesting choice. Okay.
Yeah. So that's like, I have a whole like spiel about, you know, why I like that and why I like that and whatnot. Then I would definitely say I like The Godfather. You know, I have shocking. Had to throw that one out there.
I knew that.
And then I also really like Wolf of Wall Street, and it not because of, and I will say that to your listeners too, because it's not because of. I love Scorsese, and it's a great film. You know, for that reason. But if you listen to his story, he embodies entrepreneurship. I mean, the man failed, hit it big, failed, and now he's like starting to rebuild. I'm not saying he's perfect, but you know, like that story, I think, is a cautionary tale to entrepreneurs.
Okay. I love it.
Look at that tie-in at the end.
Yeah.
I love it, man.
What a guy.
It wasn't even planned. I was just,
What a
I
tie-in.
was just curious what movies you like, but no, that's a perfect way to tie it all together, man.
There you go. There you go.
Well, Antonino, thank you.
Yes,
This has
thank you so
been
much.
incredibly fun.
Definitely.
We didn't put you on the hot seat too much, I hope.
Sorry. Next time.
But again, for everybody watching, let's see. We have the Boss Juice podcast. Please go out, subscribe, and watch, listen, like your podcast, which is, again, very similar to what we do here. So Antonino is a phenomenal host. So please watch that. And then again, you have your other companies, I screwed that up the first. That's it. I just been hired. There's two. I didn't buy enough vowels before this podcast. Febbraro Media Company.
There you go.
And then Atsap, so software development company. So you can follow Atsap on Atsap LLC on Instagram.
Yep.
There you go. And then I think it's Boss Juice on pretty much all platforms. So Boss Juice podcast on all media platforms. So check them out. And then obviously give us a subscribe and like and follow as well. That would be highly appreciated.
Yep.
And until next time, what should anything you'd like to say, Rocco?
I'll let you do that. You always do the closing line, man.
So anyways, come for the drink, stay for the stories, people. Until next time. See you later.
It has to be you, man. It has to be.